So the Las Vegas Raiders lose once again to the Denver Broncos at home in a very winnable game. And it sucks because, you know, the Raiders season is completely over. We only have a few games left this year. Each one of those will be absolutely meaningless. However, with that being said, there are a few bright things about the Raiders' future that I want to touch on today because despite our record, despite our season being over, despite no playoffs, despite no Super Bowl, despite no quarterback, no main wide receiver, no running game, all of the negatives that the Raiders are right now, well, there's some good things. And let's talk about that. The first thing that I want to talk about is that the Raiders are now third overall in the draft order. And so if the Raiders lose every single game, we are guaranteed at least the number 3 overall pick, which means that the Raiders would have a very good option to grab a franchise quarterback and build the team around a guy for the next 10 plus years, hopefully, if that guy pans out. And so who is that going to be? Well, it could be Shedeur Sanders, but I do just want to say after watching Shedeur Sanders yesterday and watching Cam Ward yesterday, I am still 100% convinced that the quarterback of the future of the Raiders 100% needs to be Cam Ward. Cam Ward put on a show yesterday, a clinic, a masterpiece of NFL-style quarterback readiness, and I 100% believe that the Raiders would be really, really dumb if they do not draft this kid in the 2025 NFL draft and make him our franchise quarterback. Cam Ward can make every single throw on the field, short, medium, and deep. He can get out of the pocket. He can run. He can do everything that the Raiders need him to do. Shedeur can do a lot of that as well. And I know a lot of people even say that Shedeur is a more accurate quarterback. I would disagree with that. I think that Shedeur, when you go pound for pound, number for number, I think they're pretty much even in the accuracy category. The difference is that Cam Ward is simply better at making the big play without just throwing up a 50-50 ball, which Shedeur tends to do. However, I don't care if it's Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward at this point because we don't have a quarterback. That's obvious. Gardner Minshew is still not going to be a starting level quarterback in professional football. He just simply doesn't have the athleticism. He doesn't have the height. He doesn't have the game speed, the ability to read the defenses. He doesn't have what you need to have for a starting level quarterback in the NFL. And so it's time for us to go. So there's one bright spot right there, which is if we lose out, we are guaranteed at least the number 3 overall draft pick, and we'll probably move into the number 1 or the number 2 spot. Well, we would definitely move up one spot because Jacksonville is ahead of us and we have to play them. And so if we lose to them, then yes, we're good to go. We move up another notch and we'll at least be the number 2. And so we'll end up with Cam Ward or we'll end up with Shedeur Sanders, one of the two. And I believe that either one of them is a huge upgrade to what the Raiders have right now. The second thing that I want to talk about it's not all doom and gloom is, listen guys, we were 2-8 moving into this game. There's nothing really to play for. And yet we almost could have won this game, right? If it's not for the interception by Gardner Minshew and, a couple things not going our way, the Raiders are all up in it to win this game. And the fight in the team, they never stopped. Max Crosby was still playing like a madman with his hair on fire. Even Tyree Wilson was showing that, hey, you know what? He actually has something, that he could actually be something. A couple tackles for losses, a sack, right? So JPJ is laying hits on people like crazy. He picked up a penalty, but I love the effort. I love the fact that he's just in there just ready to just bulldoze over people. DJ Glaze played great football today. Colton Miller had a really good game today, again, getting back into form. And even Parham had a pretty decent game. He did give up, one run for a tackle for a loss where he was pulling and he should have, picked up his guy and he missed him. Okay, but other than that, the offensive line played fairly solid today. The sacks on Gardner Minshew was actually more of a coverage sack, and Gardner just holding on to the ball too long and not making the decision to get out of the pocket and run with it. The offensive line is looking a lot better than it did the first 5 weeks of this season. And so that is a plus going into next season, because it's going to be almost the same starting cast that we have now is what we'll have next year. Maybe we go out and we get a guard in the draft. Maybe we get some more depth on that line. But for the most part, it's going to be fairly similar composition of that offensive line next year. And so the fact that even though we have nothing to play for, these guys are playing their butts off and playing really hard is pretty inspiring. And listen, Jakobi Meyers is playing his butt off. Brock Bowers is playing his butt off. Trey Tucker, we've seen some sightings of Trey Tucker today playing his butt off. And yeah, we need a true number one wide receiver. Jakobi Meyers is not it. Jakobi Meyers, like I've said a million times, he is the Swiss Army knife of wide receivers, and you have to play him like that. You have to play him in the slot. You have to move him around, end arounds, line him up as a running back, trick plays. That's what Jakobi Meyers is going to bring to this team moving forward, and the Raiders need to utilize him as such, which means you need a 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" maybe, speedster with great hands. I would love to see Territoria McMillan in the draft. I think he's probably the best wide receiver in the draft, with a close second being Travis Hunter. But we're not going to end up with either one of those if we end up with a quarterback. So T. Higgins, I've said it before. What do you guys think about that? Drop a comment down below. Do you want to see the Raiders go and sign T. Higgins for $30 million a year in the offseason in the free agency? Because he's going to be available. With that being said, the defense played a really clean game today for the most part. And, we've seen some innovativeness with the trick play on the punt to throw the ball to Divine Diablo for a first down. We saw, running back Dylan Laube get a really nice return, and how hyped up he is. I want to see him get some more touches out there on the field. Sincere McCormick, really happy for him that he's finally gotten to touch the ball. I mean, he's been on the practice squad for 3 straight years. He's finally getting to show that he might have a little bit something to offer this team. And so I think there's a lot of bright spots. I think what the down spot, the bad spot is that we just can't win games because we don't have a quarterback. And whether that means that, Coach Antonio Pierce is going to lose his job at the end of the season and we'll go, all in and trying to get a Ben Johnson or somebody of that nature, somebody who's going to be an offensive-minded coach who's really going to revamp this offense and teach our young rookie quarterback for the next 10-plus years. I don't know. But that's the rumor of what's going around. That's what I've heard. And I don't blame Antonio Pierce. Even if he gets fired right now, I don't blame him because he really doesn't have a star quarterback and a star wide receiver, and the offensive line hasn't played well. So I don't really blame him for all of this stuff. But at the same time, he's the head coach, so I do blame him. And I haven't seen anything from him that has really convinced me that he should be the coach moving forward because he hasn't been able to rectify the ship. And at this point, I think the ship is already sunk. So go ahead and just let it sink all the way to the bottom of the ocean. And then we resurrect it like the Phoenix next season and see what happens from there. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Drop a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Let's go, Raiders.